November 1718. Off the coast of North Carolina, the ocean boiled with cannon fire, muskets, and screams. At the center of it all stood a man who had become a living legend. Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard. He was the most feared pirate of his age. His beard was braided with burning fuses, his eyes glowed like coals in the smoke, and his name alone made entire crews surrender before a single shot was fired. But this day would be his last. The Royal Navy had finally trapped him at Ocracoke Inlet. Surrounded, outnumbered, and bleeding from dozens of wounds, Blackbeard still fought like a demon unleashed. He refused to fall. And then, when he finally did, came the moment that would seal his legend forever. Witnesses swore his headless body kept moving, fighting, staggering, refusing to die, for nearly 5 minutes after he was decapitated. Was it a trick of fear? Was it a myth spread by sailors? Or did Blackbeard in his final act truly cheat death itself? This is the story of Blackbeard's last stand, his horrifying death, and the chilling tale of how the world's most infamous pirate lived on for 5 minutes after the impossible. Long before his final battle, Blackbeard was already a legend. Born Edward Teach, little is known of his early life. But by the early 1700s, he had carved his name into history as the most fearsome pirate ever to sail the Atlantic. Blackbeard was more than a man. He was a performance. He understood that fear was a weapon sharper than any sword. Standing over 6 feet tall, with a dark beard that reached his chest, he made himself into a living nightmare. Before battle, he tied slow-burning fuses into his beard and lit them. Imagine it. Smoke curling around his face, eyes blazing through the haze like a demon from hell. Many sailors surrendered before a single cannon fired, but his terror wasn't just appearance, it was reputation. Blackbeard commanded a fleet of ships, with his flagship, Queen Anne's Revenge, striking fear across the Caribbean. He captured merchants, blockaded harbors, and once even held an entire city hostage. And yet he was not always the monster people claimed. Many times he spared crews if they surrendered without resistance. But survivors spread exaggerated stories, tales of cruelty and black magic, that grew his legend into something even he couldn't control. By the time of his last stand, Blackbeard wasn't just a pirate, he was a myth, and it was that myth that would carry on, even after his head rolled on the deck. November 22nd, 1718, the dawn was heavy with mist over Ocracoke Inlet, North Carolina. Blackbeard's reign was about to end. The Royal Navy, under Lieutenant Robert Maynard, had tracked him down. 2 naval sloops closed in on his anchored ship. Blackbeard, though outnumbered, did not run. He prepared for the fight of his life. As the Navy ships approached, Blackbeard ordered his cannons to fire. Smoke thundered across the inlet, shredding Maynard's men. But the Navy had a trick. Maynard ordered most of his soldiers to hide below deck, making his ship look nearly empty. Blackbeard, thinking victory was near, boarded the sloop himself. The trap was sprung. Dozens of armed Marines burst onto the deck, surrounding him. But Blackbeard did not flinch. He fought with pistols, cutlasses, and sheer fury. Witnesses said he took 5 musket balls and 20 sword wounds before he even staggered. His coat was drenched in blood, but his eyes burned with the same fire. The battle was chaos, screams, gunpowder, and steel clashing in the morning fog. Still, Blackbeard cut men down like a whirlwind, refusing to fall. And then came the final strike. Surrounded, bleeding, his strength fading, Blackbeard took a blow that would end him at last. His body swayed, but the fight wasn't over yet. The world was about to witness a death so terrifying, it would become legend. Blackbeard fought like a man possessed. 5 musket balls had pierced his body, and 20 sword wounds slashed his flesh. Yet still he stood. His enemies could scarcely believe it. At last, a final slash cut across his throat. Blood sprayed across the deck, yet even then he refused to fall. A soldier swung his cutlass again, and with one brutal stroke, Blackbeard's head was severed from his body. It should have ended there. But what happened next is what turned Blackbeard from man into myth. Witnesses swore his headless body staggered forward, cutlass still in hand, swinging wildly at his killers. Some claimed he walked the length of his ship's deck, as if refusing to accept death. Others said he collapsed only after several minutes, when at last his body drained of life. Sailors whispered that Blackbeard had made a pact with the devil, that no mortal wound could kill him swiftly, that he had cheated death itself, fighting on for 5 minutes after his head was gone. When it was finally over, Maynard ordered Blackbeard's head hung from the bowsprit of his ship as a grim trophy. His body was thrown into the sea, but legends claim it swam 3 times around the vessel before sinking. Fact or fear, history blurs the line. But one thing is certain, Blackbeard's death was as terrifying as his life. His final moments became the stuff of nightmares, a legend that made sailors tremble long after his body was gone. Sailors of the Royal Navy swore that Blackbeard's death was unlike anything they had ever seen. When his head was struck from his shoulders, his body refused to die. Witnesses claimed the headless giant swung his cutlass, staggering across the deck with blood spraying from his neck like a fountain. For 5 long minutes, his body lurched and fought, as if the soul of the demon pirate would not leave. Some said he walked the length of the ship's deck before collapsing. Others whispered his body circled Maynard's vessel 3 times in the sea after being thrown overboard. To the terrified men who watched, it was no ordinary death. It was a curse made flesh. Soon the legend spread. Taverns across the Atlantic echoed with the tale. Blackbeard, the pirate who could not be killed. A man who had made a pact with dark forces. A devil in human form. But was it true? Could a man's body really fight on without a head? Science tells us that nerves and muscles sometimes spasm after death. But 5 minutes of movement? That was no accident of nature. That was myth, crafted by terrified witnesses and exaggerated with every retelling. And yet, the story endured. Because to sailors, the thought of Blackbeard's headless body refusing to die was more terrifying than any cannon or storm. His final trick was not victory in battle. His final trick was immortality in legend. Could Blackbeard really have cheated death for 5 minutes? Or was it simply the imagination of terrified sailors who wanted to believe they had killed a demon? Science offers one explanation. When a body is decapitated, nerves and muscles can spasm violently. Limbs twitch, hands may grip or release. Even a few steps might be possible as the body drains of blood. But 5 minutes of fighting? That belongs more to legend than to biology. And yet the human mind under stress can see more than reality. Sailors who had just survived the most brutal battle of their lives were drenched in smoke, blood, and fear. To them, every twitch of Blackbeard's corpse could have seemed like deliberate defiance. In terror, the story grew. There is another reason the tale endured: propaganda. For the British Navy, hanging Blackbeard's head from the bowsprit was not enough. His legend had to be destroyed, reshaped into a cautionary tale. By spreading the myth of his demonic final stand, they made his death both terrifying and final proof that piracy would not be tolerated. But perhaps the greatest reason the myth survived is because people wanted it to. Sailors, storytellers, and tavern keepers thrived on tales of the supernatural. The idea of Blackbeard's headless body fighting on was too good to forget. In the end, the truth may not matter. Whether through muscle spasms, fear, or deliberate exaggeration, Blackbeard's death became more than a moment in history. It became a symbol, a reminder that sometimes legends are stronger than facts, and that fear can outlive the man who caused it. Blackbeard's reign ended on the blood-soaked deck of Ocracoke Inlet, but his legend never died. His beard of smoke and fire, his ruthless reputation, his final act of defiance, they all combined to create something greater than the man himself. He became a myth, a story retold for centuries, stronger than any chain or blade. Did his headless body really fight on for 5 minutes? Science says no. History says it's unlikely. But legends don't survive because they are true. They survive because they are unforgettable. Blackbeard understood the power of fear in life, and in death that power lived on. His enemies used it to terrify others. His survivors whispered it in taverns, and the world still remembers it today. For 5 extra minutes, or perhaps for eternity, Blackbeard cheated death. Not with muscle or magic, but with the one weapon he mastered better than anyone else: fear. And that is why, more than 300 years later, we still ask ourselves, was Blackbeard truly killed that day? Or does his ghost still walk the waves, headless and unbroken, waiting for the next ship that dares to cross his path?